Hey, Boat Dragons, I'm so glad that you're here with me today. We're going to be talking about the writing of George R.R. Martin. You are probably aware that he wrote A Song of Ice and Fire, which inspired the Game of Thrones series. A few of you might also be aware of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, which is a collection of short stories set about 100 years before Game of Thrones. There's also some Hedge Knight graphic novels that are based on that part of the world as well. And then, of course, there is Fire and Blood, which is a history of the world of Westeros about 1,000 years before Game of Thrones. So he's got a lot that he's written in the world of Westeros. But did you know he has a large catalog of books that he wrote outside of the Game of Thrones universe? So that's what we're talking about today. We're not talking about A Song of Ice and Fire and Game of Thrones. We're talking about his other books. So if you need some snacks and drinks to pass the time while you watch this video, pause right here, go grab those, and if you're ready to begin, let's begin. So I'm going to give these in the order of the year they were written, and I'll tell you what genre each book falls into, because he didn't just write fantasies. And I want you to understand that I have not read all of these myself. There's a large portion of these that I have not read myself yet, but if I have read it, I will tell you what I thought about it. Okay? So we are going to start off with 1977. And this is the novel Dying of the Light. And it is a space opera, takes place in the far future, where the light of the world is dying. And that's my understanding anyway. I did not read a whole lot about it. I kind of like to go into his other books blind. And I am really excited to read this one, but I have not read it yet. So that's a space opera for George R.R. Martin, written in 1977. 1979 brought us The Sand Kings. And this is a bug sci-fi. And that's all I know about it, but it sounds really interesting, and it's definitely something I want to read. So eventually I will get around to reading that one, but if you like bugs and you like sci-fi, maybe if you like Adrian Tchaikovsky and his bug sci-fi series, you might like this one as well. So just throwing that out there for you. 1980 brought us The Ice Dragon, and that is a middle grade fantasy novel. And I have read this one, and I really enjoyed it. And there's debate on whether or not it fits in the world of Westeros. I've seen a lot of stuff that makes it sound like it is technically supposed to be part of the world of Westeros. It definitely feels like the world of Westeros, so this might be Game of Thrones adjacent. But I really enjoyed it. It's a really quick read, and I highly recommend it. In 1981, he wrote the novel Windhaven, co-authored it actually, with Lisa Tuttle, and that's a collection of novellas. And it's on my list to read. It is a fantasy novel from what I understand, and it's supposed to be one of his best books from everything I've seen from people who have read it. So it's high on my list. That might be the next one that I read of his, because I do own it. And so, yeah, I'm excited to read it, and we'll see what I think. But that might be one that you would like to check out as well. 1982 brought us George's answer to vampires. And that is Fever Dream. And it is a historical vampire novel set in the steamboat era of early America. And I absolutely loved the book. I had a few issues with it. You can find my review here on the channel. It's one of my more recent videos, so if you want to check that out, you can. But overall, I felt like it was a really good book, and I really enjoyed his take on vampires. So there we go. Okay, so 1983 brought us the Armageddon Rag, and that is a fantasy mystery novel. Now, I've heard mixed things on this book. This is, again, one that I have not read, but I really like fantasy mysteries. I like that type of crossover. So I'm definitely going to give it a shot, and I have a feeling I might like it. But I am going to go into it with realistic expectations because I've heard some people say that they didn't enjoy it. So we shall see. But I do plan to read it at some point. And then 1985 brought us the cosmic horror novel Night Flyers. And guys, Night Flyers is a great novel. I really enjoyed that. Well, it's more of a novella, really. It's a short novel. And it definitely gave me Alien vibes. So if you're a fan of the Alien franchise, it definitely gave me those kind of vibes. And it did get an adaptation. We'll talk about that here a little bit later. But I really enjoyed Night Flyers, and I highly recommend it to anyone, especially if you like cosmic horror. It's a great entry into that genre. Okay, and now let's move on to 1986. And that brought us a collection of novellas called Tough Voyaging. And Tough is the captain's last name, I believe, for the ship. I could be wrong, but it is a sci-fi collection of novellas. And I don't know much about it other than that, but I've heard pretty good things, and I'm excited to read it. So maybe let me know in the comments below if that sounds interesting to you. When I first saw the title of the book, I'm like, Tough is spelled wrong, but then I realized it's actually the guy's name. So that answers everything for the misspelling. It's actually not spelled wrong. That's just the name he gave the character. So that was cool. And then in 2003, he brought us a short story collection of all short stories that he's written called Dream Songs. And so this has a wide variety of different types of speculative fiction in it, sci-fi, fantasy, stuff like that. In 2007, he brought us Dream Songs Volume 2. So he has two collections of short stories. You see what I'm getting at, guys? He's pretty prolific. He has really typecast himself with Game of Thrones and the A Song of Ice and Fire series, but he's very diverse in his writing and pretty well known. 2008 brought us a collaboration called Hunter's Run, and he wrote this with Daniel Abraham, who is a very well-known fantasy author, as well as one half of James S.A. Corey that wrote The Expanse. So he co-wrote this with Daniel Abraham and also Gardner Dozois, one of his longtime friends who has since passed away, unfortunately. So I don't know anything about that book other than the fact that it is science fiction. And I'll be very curious to see where that goes. And then I want to talk briefly about a project that he was involved in, and this goes back to 1989. This is a television series, and he was a supervising producer and writer for Beauty and the Beast. This was a television drama. I have not seen it. I don't know if it's based on the original fairy tale. I'm pretty sure it's not based on the Disney version, but I don't know much about it, but I have been curious to watch it. And when I found out George R. R. Martin had been so heavily involved with it, I decided that it was something I needed to watch even more. So Eventually, I will get around to watching it. It's not a high priority, but I do want to see it. So that's one of those that probably not a lot of people know. I only found out about it after I started reading A Song of Ice and Fire series, which was several years ago, and I had no idea that he had been involved with that television series. I remembered seeing the trailers for that TV show back in the day, but I didn't know that was him, so it's kind of cool. And then let's talk about some other adaptations of his works or adaptations that he's been involved with. Obviously, everybody knows A Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon. He's involved with those, and A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. But did you know that there are 2 adaptations based on his 1985 novel Night Flyers? Yes, there are 2 adaptations of that. One was in 1987, and then the most recent was a sci-fi miniseries from 2018. So that is the most recent of those that he has been involved with. So the first one in 1987 was a movie, and then this one was a miniseries. I'm really excited to at least watch the miniseries at some point because I love the book. And then in 2022, George R.R. Martin created the lore, some of the world building for Elden Ring, the video game produced by FromSoft Games. I love the lore. I don't love the game. Guys, I am not a complicated gamer. I don't do well with Dark Souls-esque games. But I really like the lore. And in fact, there is a book that was just recently being promoted about the lore of Elden Ring. And so I think it might already be released, and if it is, I will throw up a picture of it here, and I'll put a link in the description where you can go and buy it if you want to. I think it might be available for everyone to buy, but I'm not sure. I'm really excited to check it out, though, if it is, because the lore for Elden Ring is great. The game is just way too difficult for my taste, but it's a cool storyline. We'll give it that. And in 2025, there was a movie made of one of George's stories called In the Lost Lands. And Dave Bautista was one of the actors cast in one of the lead roles. And I've heard it's gotten really good ratings, but I have not seen it yet. Maybe I'll read the story first, because I think that is one of the stories in one of the Dream Songs collections. I might be wrong. I'll have to look that up, and I'll put a little ticker here on the screen if I'm right or wrong. I'll do that in post-production, because sometimes I make mistakes. You know, I'm human. Yeah, so anyway, that is kind of my overview of George R.R. Martin's career. I didn't go too in-depth because a lot of these I have not read, but I hope this gives you some new additions to your to-be-read list. I hope this inspires you to go and read outside the world of Westeros, because he is a really good writer just in general from the few books outside that I have read. So please check some of these out. Let me know in the comments below if you've already read some of these books. I would love to hear your thoughts. And if you've gotten some new inspiration to read some of his works, let me know that in the comments as well. If you had only read A Song of Ice and Fire and things like that, let me know in the comments below if you're excited to broaden your horizons when it comes to the works of George R.R. Martin. And maybe you're watching this and you had no idea that he had written anything else besides A Song of Ice and Fire, because that's all we hear about now, for the most part. So let me know in the comments. I would love to talk with you. And until next time, guys, make sure you read more books. And if you want to watch more of my content, here's some ideas on the end screen. Take care.